Tonight on Reporting Scotland, a body is found in the search for sisters who went missing in Aberdeen. The family of Henrietta Hoosty, who was last seen with her sister Eliza more than 3 weeks ago, have been told of the discovery. Also in tonight's programme, after winning a payout from the nursing home, a woman says she's haunted by the end-of-life care her mother received there.
All that was left that I could give my mum was for her to die in peace, and she didn't. She just didn't die. It was horrific.
Ellen Watson died just over a year after moving into the home in Uddingston. The owners have apologised but deny her care was horrific. How cancer surgeons are using robots like these to carry out operations, which could reduce hospital stays. And meet Scotland's record-breaking tennis star who's served up a world championship at the age of 75. Hello, I'm Sally Magnus and welcome to Friday's programme. The body of a woman has been found near where two missing sisters were last seen in Aberdeen. 32-year-olds Henrietta and Eliza Hoosty, two of a set of Hungarian triplets, were last seen near the River Dee on January the 7th. Police said the recovered body had yet to be identified, but Henrietta Hoosty's family had been informed. Louise Hosey reports.
Police returned to the River Dee in Aberdeen this morning after reports of a body in the water. Just before 8 o'clock, the remains of a woman were recovered. Henrietta and Eliza Hoosty were last seen near the River Dee in the early hours of January the 7th. While the body has yet to be formally identified, police say Henrietta's family has been informed. Searches for her sister Eliza continue.
It's been more than 3 weeks since Henrietta and Eliza went missing. Their family earlier described them as happy and cheerful and said they were at a loss as to what could have happened.
When the sisters were last seen, they had made their way towards Victoria Bridge. They turned down a footpath that runs alongside the River Dee towards the boat club. Police revealed they'd visited the same bridge the day before. A text had been sent from Henrietta's mobile phone to the sisters' landlady at the same time they were last seen, indicating they wouldn't be returning to their flat. Extensive searches by land, water and air took place earlier this month along the River Dee and the harbour area. These were called off earlier this week, but police had said coastal searches would continue. Today there was sadness in the city where the sisters lived for the last 10 years.
Perhaps this is something that we were all dreading, but I think given the circumstances of a couple of weeks ago, perhaps we thought might be inevitable. There is a real sense of sadness, of shock, and I think of heartbreak for the family and friends of the person who's sadly been recovered.
Police say their thoughts are with the Hoosty family and their priority remains finding both the sisters. Louise Hosey, Reporting Scotland, Aberdeen.
A woman who got a £10,000 payout from a nursing home says she's haunted by the standard of care her 93-year-old mum was given as she was dying. Her mother, Ellen Watson, who had dementia, died 13 months after moving into Bothwell Castle Care Home in Uddingston. The home has apologised. Katie Hunter reports.
My mum was the kindest person you could ever meet.
Ellen Watson moved into Bothwell Castle Care Home in 2020 during the pandemic. It describes itself as a luxury home.
It's just unthinkable.
But Ellen's daughter obtained records showing in the weeks before her mum died, NHS district nurses who visited the home raised concerns and filled in an adult support and protection referral for Ellen, a form designed to protect adults who can't safeguard themselves and are at risk of harm. Ellen's referral stated she was at risk of neglect. It said care staff failed to contact the district nursing team overnight after Ellen pulled the needle from the device delivering her medication.
It was horrific.
Linda says her mum went without end-of-life drugs for around 14 hours.
It's unforgivable. Even mentioning that adult support and protection order in the same sentence that you're mentioning a nursing home and you're also mentioning an end of life. It just doesn't, I can't comprehend it.
The Care Inspectorate upheld 3 of Linda's 6 complaints. It found Ellen did not receive palliative care and support in line with best practice and standards, that the home failed to respond appropriately when Ellen Watson's family raised concerns, but that based on available evidence, staff had endeavoured to support Mrs Watson through periods of stress and distress. Linda's grateful to some of the care home staff who looked after her mum, but she took legal action and received a payout of £10,000.
All that was left that I could give my mum was for her to die in peace, and she didn't. She just didn't die. It was horrific.
Bothwell Castle Care Home said nothing was more important than the well-being of residents, and it would again like to offer condolences to Mrs Watson and sincere apologies that her mother's end-of-life care fell short of what it describes as its usual high standards, but it strongly refuted the allegation that the care provided was horrific. A spokesperson said, "We take any complaints or concerns raised with us extremely seriously, and following Mrs Watson's complaint, we undertook a comprehensive internal investigation and participated fully in an external investigation with the Care Inspectorate. The Care Inspectorate's next visit to our home in 2022 confirmed that the required areas for improvement had been met and the complaint closed."
The one thing I hope, if you speak now, is that somebody somewhere has the capacity to come in and go, nah, this can't happen in care homes. No, it shouldn't happen in any care homes, but especially when you're paying shed loads of money to them for the care that you're not getting.
Linda says she'll donate the £10,000 she received to charity in memory of her mum. Katie Hunter reporting Scotland.
Scotland's rail fares will increase by 3.8% from April. The Transport Secretary says the government's kept the rise as low as possible, but there's been criticism from opposition parties. Now, reporter Gillian Sharp joins us from Glasgow's Queen Street station. Gillian, what more can you tell us?
Well, Sally, of course, nobody likes to see prices going up, and that has been, as you said, acknowledged by the Scottish Government. They say they've kept this increase as low as possible in order to keep the attractiveness and affordability of trains as a means of transport. Transport Scotland said ministers agreed to this rise after what they called lengthy consideration. Now, that was to do with budgets and long-term sustainability of the railways. There are mitigations in place. Season ticket holders will continue to get a 20% discount until September, and flexi passes, which give discounted fares, those have been continued and expanded. What's the reaction been today, Gillian? Well, if you look at the opposition parties, it has been universally negative. Scottish Greens, for instance, say we need an affordable and accessible railway. Now, they were, of course, part of the government with the SNP until their agreement broke down. And during their time in government, there was a pilot which saw the scrapping of peak fares. That was all about getting people out of their cars and onto the railways, but that was stopped in September last year, judged to have been of limited success in that.
Gillian Sharp, thank you very much indeed. Now, how would you feel about being operated on by a robot? At the moment, this kind of surgery only accounts for around 1% of the total each year. But cancer surgeons say more of these robots could reduce long stays in hospital and help recovery. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers has been to see one in action.
Point the scope at the target anatomy, then press and hold the targeting button.
In Operating Theatre D at Glasgow Royal Infirmary, surgeon Kevin Burton is preparing the robot, affectionately known as Roxy, for surgery.
Targeting complete.
The patient has endometrial cancer and it'll be a tricky operation.
It's a confined spaces you have to work in deep in the pelvis. So there's lots of really important blood vessels, lots of really important nerves, and working those confined spaces without access to robotic surgery is very difficult. Okay, a wee rinse and aspiration here again, thanks.
From this console, he's entirely in control of Roxy and able to manipulate surgical instruments.
The advantage of the robot in this case is it's allowing the surgeon to get a really clear, detailed look deep inside the patient's body. And for the patient herself, well, it's a far less invasive procedure, there should be less complications, and it'll speed up recovery time.
It's been 10 years since robots were first used to assist surgery in Scotland, but 3 years ago, the Scottish Government bought more Da Vinci robots to improve access to cancer surgery. 10,000 patients have had robotic-assisted surgery since. One of those is Isabel Morrison.
Didn't realise I'd even had it, you know, and when the doctors happened to be in the ward, and I said, "Excuse me, have I had my operation?" And they said yes. I called him the Tin Man and just said he'd done a good job.
Only 1% of operations on the NHS are carried out by robotic-assisted surgery, but surgeons say it has enormous potential. They'd like robots to continue to be on the government's radar, with a commitment to make innovation and technology part of NHS reform.
There are still patients and hospitals that don't have access to this technology. While we've seen a very significant uptake of robotic surgery, we do want to see that investment continue, because there are certainly patients that could be benefiting, and it's beneficial for the hospital to be able to use the beds more efficiently so that we can treat more patients.
With the NHS facing record waiting times, doctors say there's huge potential for robots to play a role in reducing pressures. But the question for those holding the purse strings is what offers the best value for money and for patients. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland, Glasgow.
Well, the surgeons are clearly loving this. You've got more news at 7?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? We'll speak to Professor Mackay, who you saw there, in more detail, just to hear what it's actually like to do this kind of surgery. We're also speaking to another almost medic, a first responder. He's 80, he lives on Islay, and he helps people that might need medical assistance before that turns up. Also tonight, we're talking about a whale rescue off Skye, which you're going to be covering too. We will speak to the whale rescue team leader live. That is 7 o'clock, BBC Scotland Channel and iPlayer.
Lovely, look forward to it. Thanks very much indeed, Laura. Now, tonight's main news again. The family of 2 sisters who went missing in Aberdeen have been informed after a body is found.
And still to come in the sport, we'll look ahead to Scotland's opening game in the Six Nations when they face Italy tomorrow.
As Laura was saying, rescuers have freed a humpback whale that got itself tangled in ropes at a fish farm off the Isle of Skye. The exhausted whale was trapped for more than 24 hours, as Andrew Thompson reports.
Workers at this fish farm near Staffin in Skye spotted the humpback whale in distress at around first light yesterday. Volunteer rescuers went out to help in a small inflatable boat this morning, and using specialist equipment, they cut the animal free.
Every rescue's different. Every rescue's it's tricky and fraught with danger. So safety is paramount. From the surface, it looked like it was just going to be a one-cut rescue. However, when we looked at the underwater footage, the animal was extremely entangled underneath, right under its chin, and around its head and onto its left pectoral fin.
It's estimated that, on average, 6 humpback whales are entangled in rope around Scotland's coast each year. It rarely happens at fish farms, and it's believed this whale may already have been tangled up in rope, picked up elsewhere, that then snagged on a mooring chain. Experts who were at the scene believe it was a very young animal.
We guesstimated yesterday it was around about 8 metres, which suggests it's probably only recently weaned from its mother. So yes, a young animal. It's likely independent. There was certainly no mother hanging around yesterday, so it was likely independent of the mother. But yeah, quite a small animal by humpback whale standards.
The fish farm operators, Organic Sea Harvest, have thanked everyone involved in setting the young whale free. Rescuers had to encourage the exhausted animal to swim away, and they still have concerns for its well-being after its 24-hour ordeal. But when last seen, it was heading out into the open seas of the Minch. Andrew Thompson, reporting Scotland.
Well, that's good news. Let's get to tonight's sport and Six Nations starting this weekend.
Here we go again, Sally. Yeah. And typically Scottish, we get our hopes up. Let's just hope we can follow through this time. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. Exciting.
Exciting indeed. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, I'll get to that shortly. I'm going to start though with some football because Celtic boss Brendan Rodgers says he finds it hard to fathom why one fan has risked the prospect of a ban on away supporters for their Champions League trip to play Bayern Munich over previous incidents. We cannot hear from the Celtic manager because the BBC was not invited to today's media conference. Rangers manager Philippe Clement believes his squad are proving the doubters wrong after they secured a place in the last 16 of the Europa League with a 2-1 win over Union Saint-Gilloise.
We explained in the beginning of the season what this club needed, and it was not my choice, it was choice of the board, and they asked me if we realise that they see this more and more.
Motherwell caretaker boss Stephen Frail wants to reconnect the team and supporters after a week in which Stuart Kettlewell stepped down as manager, citing personal abuse from a section of fans. There was a message of support for Kettlewell at the club's ground today, but some others feel the fan base has been unfairly tarnished. Meanwhile, Vice-Captain Stephen O'Donnell has urged supporters to think about the impact of their actions.
Obviously have every right to give your opinion, but just be mindful when you're giving it that there is families and round about, and they maybe don't sign up for the abuse that the players and the managers accept, and referees, by the way, we can't miss them out. They get hurled abuse, so maybe sometimes take a step back.
We've got a good fan base. It was one or two of the elements that have taken it that little bit too far. It shouldn't be accepted in any walk of society, you know, but unfortunately Stuart's made that decision for the welfare of himself and also his family. But we need to try and get this connectivity back with not just the good fans, everyone, to try and connect the club and make sure that we're ready going forward for this game on Sunday and for the rest of the season.
Now, let's get to that rugby, shall we? Because could this be the year for Scotland in the Six Nations? Well, it all starts with a home game against Italy at Murrayfield tomorrow. Gregor Townsend believes his squad is getting close to challenging for the title after some big results in recent years. Our Sports News correspondent Chris McLaughlin takes a look at Scotland's chances in an ever-changing rugby landscape.
It's that time of year billed as one of the biggest international rugby tournaments on the planet. Recently, though, Gregor Townsend's side have promised much, but failed to deliver when it mattered. Scotland kick off with two home games. First up, Italy, who beat the Scots last time and look like they're improving every year. The current champions Ireland are the visitors to Edinburgh a week later. Then it's off to Twickenham, where Scotland haven't lost since 2017. After that, back to Murrayfield to face last year's recipients of the wooden spoon, Wales. And for Scotland, it all finishes up with a huge match against the French in Paris.
Even if you look at last year's Six Nations, while we only won 2 games, every game we're involved in was either 3 defeats or within 2 or 3 points. So there's a consistency of performance or a competitiveness that was shown.
It's a Scotland squad packed with talent, but with captain Shoni Tiopolotu injured, Russell and Darge are tasked with leading the group.
As a squad, we're in a good place, and I think if we, myself and Darge and Gregor, can all be on the same page, getting the same messages across and keeping it to week by week and keeping the outside noise as quiet as possible, then I'd like to think we get a few good results in there.
Your front row seat. But could this be the last year we see Russell and co on terrestrial TV? The rights held by the BBC and ITV expire after the tournament. Subscription channel TNT are understood to be keen to take them on.
The sport is not in a good state worldwide in terms of finances, so there's a real imperative to strike a deal that is really beneficial commercially. But it's a huge caveat and one that can't be underestimated is that opportunity in the Six Nations on free-to-air TV. It's a lot of people's only entry point into the sport over the course of the year.
In an ever-changing rugby landscape, Scotland are fighting for and perhaps even struggling to see where they fit in. As the strong continue to get stronger, they have to keep up on and off the pitch. A good Six Nations would certainly help. Chris McLaughlin reporting Scotland, Murrayfield.
To tennis now, and Jacob Fernley has made a winning Davis Cup debut as he beat Kai Nishikori 6-3, 6-3 to level the qualifying tie at 1 apiece. The 23-year-old from Edinburgh has risen more than 500 places in the world rankings in the past year and has now helped Great Britain level their first-round tie against hosts Japan with the straight sets victory over the former world number 4. Fearnley will play Yoshihito Nishioka tomorrow as the best of 5 contest reaches its conclusion. Quite the year that Jacob Fearnley's had,
he really has. And talking of Scottish tennis champions, if I were to ask you to name Scotland's top tennis players right now.
Right now? Well, he's got to be up there.
Yeah.
But if I'm talking all time, I've got to mention that man right there, don't I?
I know. And with amazing foresight, we just have to have a photograph of these two. But there is another one. She's won thousands of matches and more than 100 titles. And chances are you've never heard of her. Well, you have now. Lorna Gordon has been to meet her.
This is not your typical world champion. She won her first tournament when she was 9 years old, and more than half a century later is still winning medals. Meet Marjorie Love, at 75, #1 in the world for her age.
How many titles have you got in total?
Oh, I don't actually know, to be honest.
For decades, Marjorie dominated at her local club. This month, she added to her tally, winning the Scottish national title, and not for the first time.
So this is when I won the Scottish Championship.
How old are you there?
I'm 20.
You won?
Won it and that was 1969.
And then, of course, there's the medals.
Yes, this is my gold medal for winning the World Individual Women's 75 Singles in Turkey last year.
World champion.
World champion, yes, world champion.
Modest about her achievements, when not on the court, Marjorie stays active by walking and says as you get older, mobility and fitness count more than technique. But of course, she still likes to win.
I think it gives you a sense of achievement, sense of satisfaction if you go, even a friendly game. I'm not going to get upset if I lose, but I still like in a friendly game to come off as a winner. So I think that's what keeps you going.
Her opponent this time, more than 3 decades her junior.
It's just fantastic that somebody of Marjorie's experience has been recognised on a world stage. Marjorie never misses. She's a fantastic player, great eye, and absolutely makes me run around drawing up a sweat.
On her home courts near Glasgow, there's time for a rally with one of her younger admirers. And for those a little older, Marjorie has this to say.
Other 75-year-olds who are perhaps sitting on their sofa watching this, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd simply say it doesn't matter what you do. If there's something that you enjoy and you're active, or even if you're just interested in doing something, just keep doing it as long as you're able to.
That's easier for some than others. On court with Marjorie, and it's clear there's only one winner. Lorna Gordon, reporting Scotland, Houston.
Thank you.
Hey, go Marjorie. Let's see what the weather is up to now. Chris, in front of that absolutely stunning shot from Orkney.
Yes, that was sunrise this morning, Sally. The last sunrise of January 2025, because it's February tomorrow, would you believe? The last month of meteorological winter. It always comes with a few surprises, though, doesn't it? So certainly one to watch. Thank you very much indeed. Good evening to you. Some lovely sunshine across parts of the north coast of the mainland. Durness there in Sutherland, but for many it was a good bit cloudier compared with yesterday, wasn't it? Through this evening and overnight it is predominantly dry. There'll be some fairly extensive mist and fog through the central lowlands, Tayside in particular, and temperatures overnight down close to freezing if not sub-zero, and again there will be some mist and fog in places. That takes us to tomorrow, and initially dry with some brightness across central and eastern areas. Inverness, Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh, you'll hold on to the sunshine longest. Elsewhere, thickening cloud with a few spots of light rain or drizzle, but many areas predominantly dry. Now, through the day, the cloud will extend its way eastward, so if you wake up with the sunshine, expect things to cloud over. If you wake up with the cloud, it's with you all day, I'm afraid. Temperatures 6, 7, 8 Celsius with the thickest cloud, spots of rain, and the winds just picking up around the west coast as well. So for those hill walking or climbing, certainly across western ranges, at the summits, temperatures around about freezing, if not sub-zero, a significant wind chill with those strong winds coming in from the south. Eastern ranges, there'll be fairly extensive mist and fog in the glens first thing, and that'll lift up through the hills during the day. Perhaps, though, some brighter moments developing later on. Once again, though, a significant wind chill with those southerly winds and low temperatures. Looking ahead towards Saturday evening, still cloudy with spots of rain, and then overnight Saturday night, a weather front bringing a more persistent band of rain, primarily through the early hours. And that's how we start the day on Sunday. Cloudy and a bit wet, really. But through the day, that rain is running into an area of high pressure, so tending to fizzle out, so slowly drying up. In fact, a bit of brightness pushing in towards the Hebrides around about mid-afternoon. For most of us, dusk probably arriving quicker than the sunshine. Temperatures 7 to 9 Celsius. And then, looking ahead towards next week, we've got a weather front through Monday and Tuesday just hanging around, bringing some rain. But Wednesday onwards, high pressure returns, and that means a return to some sunshine. But before we get there, this is Monday. There's the rain, certainly across the northwest. Elsewhere, cloudy but drier. And it's mild with a southerly wind, 10 or 11 degrees. Come Tuesday, that same rain, that same weather front still with us, just trundling further south and east through the course of the day. It's not really until we reach Wednesday, as I mentioned, that high pressure takes over and things improve. So cloudy and wet start to the week. Wednesday onwards, some sunshine, some blue sky. Temperatures a little bit lower compared with the start of the week, so cooler by day and by night, but some sunshine nonetheless. That's the forecast for now.
Sunshine! Woo. Thank you very much indeed, Chris. Now tonight's main news again. A body has been found in the search for two missing sisters in Aberdeen. The family of Henrietta Hoosty, who was last seen more than 3 weeks ago, have been told of the discovery. And after winning a payout from an Uddingston nursing home, a woman says she's haunted by the end-of-life care her mother received there. Laura McKeever is getting ready to start the news at 7 on the BBC Scotland channel. And Anne McAlpine will be here with your late news at around 10:30 tonight. But until then, from everyone in the team, do enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.